years on this deal, but I want to trade. I don't want to be here no more. Get me out of here. And there's been a lot of speculation about where he could potentially end up, but now there's a new team that could potentially put together a Kevin Durant-worthy package, and that is the Washington Wizards. Interesting, Mr. Rose. I have not heard this before, but recently the Wizards could put together a package with a bunch of draft assets and some young players that maybe could entice Sean Marks and the Nets to deal KD to his hometown team. I don't know why, but in the media, we always want players to play for their hometown team. I don't know why we do this, but we always do it. Is there any chance we could see a surprise team like the Wizards enter the KD sweepstakes?
Representing the DMV, and here's why. One of the coldest things to me in basketball is like the verbiage of when you're from north, south, east, and west, certain terms that you use. And the same thing in basketball, skills-wise, like with the Point Guys documentary that's coming out. I know you would appreciate all of the big-time New York City ball handlers, like that became their trademark. One of my favorite trademarks in the league was like DMV shimmy shake at the free throw line. I just think that's cold. It truly is. And Jacoby, here's why the media fantasizes and wants players to play for their hometown or home area. Because that's a hometown hero. And you know that person is going to be invested in the community, not just focused on playing basketball. So that's what makes that relationship different. And so absolutely, if you're the Washington Wizards and you're Tommy Shepard and you can find a way to team KD up with Bradley Beal, you do that. You definitely do that. And so I like to hear that they're in the conversation. But again, when you call GM Jalen, like, I was looking at their roster and I saw them play last year.
You know what?
Okay.
Let's call GM Jalen right now.
Okay, cool. You know what I love about that graphic, fam? Like, you know what Jay was like, best flow, most consistent, realest stories, I set the most trends. I was counting those trophies, and I do got like 7 championships.
Good for you. Good for you.
I really do.
Well, Jalen Rose is now going to be playing the role of the general manager of the Nets. I am calling.
Shep, what up, though? How you doing, my brother?
How you doing? This is Dave Jacoby. I'm taking over for the GM of the Miami Heat, actually. And Mr. Rose, I know you had a tough time last season. It's, vibes were bad in Brooklyn. You got swept. So I think it's time for some change. And, Kevin Durant doesn't want to be there anymore. So I want to take that problem off your hands. One of the teams that he mentioned that he wanted to play for was Miami Heat. And I've got a package for you. Now, everyone talks about the designated rookie rule. So you're going to have to get rid of Ben Simmons, but I'm sure you can handle that in your own time because I've got a package for you that involves Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, 6th Man of the Year. Not just that. 4 first-round picks. Again, Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, 4 first-round picks for Kevin Durant. All you have to do is find a trade partner for Ben Simmons, and we can lock this in today.
See, the one thing about like the Miami culture that I know is like the Patriots in football. Like when Bill Belichick and Pat Riley calling, like you gotta look at the phone twice. You know what I'm saying? You gotta measure twice and cut once. So I know who I'm talking to on the phone. Since showtime, and I have to say a couple of things. Those 4 first-round picks are going to be late in the first round since you're going to have Spo on the sideline, KD and Jimmy Butler on the team. You're in Miami and people going to always come want to play there because of your culture and what you've established, but also save on state taxes. I want to ask another question. How many, and you know I love Duncan Robinson. You know it's my Wolverine guy. And you know I love Tyler Hero. I just saw his chest the other day all tatted in the gym.
Great tattoo.
How many All-Star appearances combined did they have so far?
Bam Adebayo, All-Star appearance.
No, I'm talking about those two. I'm talking about those two.
Oh, yeah, well, the thing is, you're betting on their future, Mr. Rose. I mean, Tyler Hero's only been in the league for 3 years. So he's the future All-Star appearances, at least a dozen between the 3 of them.
Well, I was just at the playoffs, and y'all weren't using Duncan Robinson, and y'all lost to the Celtics. So let's talk about Bam. Did you see that there were multiple games that Bam was in single-digit points? He wasn't aggressive.
He makes winning plays. He sets picks. He moves the ball. You see his passing has really improved. Great defender, one of the best defenders.
I love Bam. Like, I believe like Jalen Durant can become a player like Bam. Like, I like Bam a lot, but I need him to be more consistent. Like, his best games in these playoffs were when Joel Embiid was out and when the Celtics bigs were out, like Time Lord in particular. So this is like, here's the thing. I just don't think like you guys had the assets to get the deal done.
Okay, that's fine. You know what, Mr. Rose?
Mr. Rose, that's fine. I want to propose something to you.
No, that's fine. If you don't think you get the deal done, you just run it back. What you did last year, do that again. You're going to have an unhappy KD, an unhappy Kyrie, an unhappy Steve Nash, and who knows if Ben Simmons is even going to play. So enjoy that season. Have a great time.
How about I got to ask one question?
You'll be watching.
I got to ask one question. Really important.
Enjoy the playing game.
I'll trade you KD. And when you call me back, think about this. If you include a package that gets me Spo.
Okay, break it up. Break it up. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. We'll take it to text. Let's take it to text. Bye.
Gee.
Oh, GM Jalen.
Spo a great asset. I'll bring Spo in. I'll bring Spo in and I'll make him a part owner. You know what I'm saying? I'll do like a football, baseball type thing with him. He's that valuable. But no, I don't believe that he had the assets on paper to get a Kevin Durant today.
Jalen, one day, we're going to get GM Jalen to agree to a Kevin Durant trade. And it's not going to be Giannis, and it's not going to be Steph. Will there be a trade that GM Jalen would accept for Donovan Mitchell? We'll find out after this. Is it the Knicks enough? For New York City, welcome back to Jalen Jacoby, Jalen Anthony Rose. It just kind of seems inevitable. It seems like it's a done deal that Donovan Mitchell will eventually be traded to the Knicks. However, seems like talks have slowed down and they will, quote, re-engage here at some point. Jalen, is it Donovan Mitchell or bust for the Knicks?
I believe it's going to happen at some point, and yes is the answer. And you already see him taking his introductory victory laps. He's throwing out the first pitch everywhere in metropolitan New York City. He's getting ready for it to happen also. And let me just tell you this. He's someone that grew up in Connecticut. He deserves this opportunity. I believe he's going to shine really bright on the big stage at MSG if given the opportunity. I like them adding Jalen Brunson. They're going to be short and diminutive, and they're going to have their challenges defensively. But I'm going to tell you what, Tibbs likes to put the ball in his guards' hands. And so if they're able to keep a core of their team, like I'm not giving up R.J. Barrett, and they should be able to keep Randall. So if that's the case, like, you're going to be excited about the New York Knickerbockers again. I'm not saying that they're going to win the championship, but I'm saying that they're now going to be a team that can legitimately flirt with a playoff spot. And so that's progress based on what you saw last year, and that's growth from within. You still have Quickly, you still have Mitchell Robinson. Like, there are some things that they've built, like, internally that I believe they can continue to add to. But I think Donovan Mitchell is that guy, and he's been one of the elite playoff performers and high scorers when he's gotten going in the second season. So I believe it should be a motivated Knicks in order to try to get this deal done.
Donovan Mitchell grew up in Westchester, very close to Connecticut. But Mr. Rose, they might flirt with a playoff spot, but they're not going home with a playoff spot. They're not getting a playoff spot's phone number or Instagram handle. Like, they might just flirt for a little bit, maybe buy a playoff spot of beer, but that's going to be the end of that relationship with a playoff spot for the New York Knicks. They definitely not get into the second round, regardless, even if they win a play-in game or whatever, with Donovan Mitchell or without. Another drama that we've been following all summer is everything around DeAndre Ayton. Famously did not get an extension from the Suns, then got an offer sheet from the Pacers, had to go out and get that to then have that offer be matched by the Suns. Seems like the Suns just didn't want to commit to a fifth year. I would be insulted if I was DeAndre Ayton, but he says he's happy, the process is over, he's going to put it all behind him, and he's looking forward to competing for a championship with his brothers. Is it all good if you're DeAndre Ayton?
It is all good today, and I'm glad you used the term insult, because if you're a competitor, that means you also have pride. So basically, how do you feel when you're not the first choice? And when you've had success already somewhere and they've seen you improve and they've watched you elevate yourself, but they don't take care of you, yet a building that you haven't been in the last few years steps up to try to take care of you. So everybody's gonna feel some type of way at some point. However, when you ink that deal, Jacoby, ooh, it feels good. Yeah, I don't care who giving you the money, okay? He just changed generations on generations on generations. So he like, thank you, thank you, thank you. But basketball-wise, when they start back, we can't ignore how their season ended. And he was on the sideline, and they were one of the worst achieving playoff teams along with the Nets for me last year. So there's a basketball element that he's gonna have to improve and get back to. I think Monty Williams is gonna be ready to lead that charge. And also Chris Paul, it seems like when he turned 37, I believe, you know, those were some bizarre performances that he had late in the season also.
Yep.
So like the Suns are due for a bounce back. Like Jalen Brunson need to send them a thank you because they helped him get paid.
Sure did.
You see what I'm saying? And
sure did.
So I know he's happy to be back, but it's gonna be great to see how the Suns respond. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. I believe that they're gonna have a big response. Devin Booker's gonna have a big response to how they flamed out in the playoffs this year.
See, I love how you get into the psychology of DeAndre Ayton, how as a competitor he can use this for motivation because you're a professional athlete and that's how you feel about the world. See, me, I'm not. I have one option if I'm DeAndre Ayton: mope, pout, and sabotage from within. That's what I do. I mope and I pout and I sabotage from within until they trade me. That's what I do if I'm DeAndre Ayton. But I am not DeAndre Ayton. I am just a fan who was on the couch last night watching the home run derby, thoroughly entertained by the dingers and the bombs, and it was Juan Soto. That man right there who took home the trophy. The same Juan Soto who just recently was offered a 14-year, $440 million contract. Someone wanted to pay him $440 million to play baseball. And what did he do, Jalen Rose? Said not enough. Is it smart to turn down a $440 million contract?
In his case, yes. There's a few things I want to say. I want to thank hip-hop for allowing rap music to become mainstream to the point where I'm watching sporting events and I'm seeing fans, in particular those that look like you, wearing huge gold chains, replicas, whether they're real, whether they're fake, whether they're cubic zirconium, whether they have, you know, princess cut diamonds. Like I'm just so happy for rap music and hip hop. So that's one thing. The other thing I want to say is 14 years. Like that's baseball and having the greatest union in professional sports. The 444 millions, he gonna get that, but less years. Like when you as talented as he is, and the way the ball jump off of his bat, like he wanna get low. He should be signing like 5-year deals. It seems like he could get 5 for 300. Why would he sign 14 for 440?
Well, you offered me a $440 contract. I'm signing it. Forget the millions. We will be back
look at Aaron
after.
Judge. Aaron Judge is going to be flirting with $500 million.
Yeah, he is.
You got
He
to fall
deserves
back
it.
and wait.
Every single day we're on the air, we recognize another day Brittany Griner still detained in Russia.
Wrongfully detained way too long, 152 days. We wish her a speedy, safe return to the United States.
It was 16 years ago yesterday. The Seattle Supersonics were sold. Mr. Rose, what are some of your favorite memories from the Sonics?
Oh, the OG Spencer Haywood, coached by one of their coaches, Bernie Bickerstaff, actually drafted me into the NBA. Gus Johnson, Jack Sigma, Nate McMillan, Adele Ellis, Xavier McDaniel, Ray Allen, Ray Lewis, Sean Kemp. You can't stop the rain when it starts to
We're
fall.
off until Monday, so check us out.
No
Monday,
one left
ESPN2,
to
4
blame.
o'clock.
BMF.
And Jacoby, what is it that we do?
We get the people!
Yes.
What they want.
So much much to discuss today, but we start, as we often do, with the Los Angeles Lakers. Last time, we had an update on the relationship between LeBron and Russell Westbrook. They were sitting on opposite ends of a summer league game and not talking to each other. Now, Chris Haynes tells us that AD, LeBron, and Russell Westbrook have huddled up on a phone conversation and vowed to make it work. Jalen, one side of me says, great, they're all on the same page. They're discussing things with each other. They're going to vow to make it work. This is awesome. Another side of me says, you probably shouldn't have to have a Zoom call with your teammates before the season to vow to make it work. Your thoughts?
And Chris Haynes is the plug's plug, so he know. And let me just tell you this. That Zoom basically goes, we all getting paid $40+ million by the Los Angeles Lakers brand to play basketball. Let's continue to represent our own, and let's continue to represent that one. If you're at a summer league game, you're at work. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That makes it different than the average person showing up at the game. If the Cavs was playing and LeBron was at the game, that would be different. When both of them are at Laker games and they're not speaking to each other in the gym, that's a flagrant foul. And so you just had to get in the room and talk about it. And on Zoom in 2022. But the bottom line is this, they still fielding calls. So if they get a deal that they like on Russ, everybody knows that they would do that deal. But the main thing that really needs to happen, hopefully for the Lakers, is that they can get a healthy Anthony Davis.
Yep.
See, like, Russ, while his shooting percentages are very low and his turnovers were very high, he's still a productive player. Like, and he still brings it every single night. And so I think what has happened is people have judged him by either his Hall of Fame status or his salary. Now, he's gonna have to reinvent himself too. And I was thinking about Russ, and I watched like Jason Kidd win with the Mavs, and then Gary Payton win with the Heat. And clearly, you know, I played against GP, that's the OG. Got a chance to break bread with him during the finals. And I got drafted with J. Kidd, now coach of the Mavs. When both of those guys won championships, Jacoby, look at the stats that season versus their career stats. They had to reinvent themselves. And so that also has to take place with Russ. Like, the more that you get traded, the less you become the marquee. But when you're able to reinvent yourself, there has to be times where he has to consider, hey, I'm best with the ball. That means staggering minutes with LeBron. That may mean coming off the bench. That may mean starting the game. That may mean not finishing the game. That has to be that same attitude and energy, Jacoby, when you're talking to the young fellas in Summer League and you're encouraging them. It has to be the same person. You feel what I'm saying?
Yep.
And AD clearly is gonna be the catalyst for all of this because you still need him to be a top 10 player. And so if LeBron's playing like he was just playing the last season, here's something you'll appreciate. When you're younger like a Luka, your numbers jump off the page and you can carry the team. You see what I'm saying? But when you get older like LeBron, you still getting your numbers. It's almost like the Drew League. Yeah, they was balling, he had 40, but they only won by 2. You know what I'm saying? And he had DeMar DeRozan on his squad. It's the same thing in the league. They're gonna need AD to be that anchor, Russ to be able to reinvent himself, and LeBron to still be able to pace himself while still be dominant.
One thing to pay attention to is Russell Westbrook and his long-term agent have parted ways. And in his agent's statement, he said that it was his suggestion that Russell Westbrook stay with the Lakers, go under the support system that Darvin Ham has going to provide him, and that would eventually be the best thing for him. What's interesting about that being in the statement is it hints that Russell Westbrook is not interested in that route. It seems like Russell Westbrook is the one who needs to be convinced to sort of buy in and vow to win a championship. What do you think would be best for him, to stay with the Lakers or to move to another team where he can be, quote unquote, the guy?
Well, Russ is a pro. He's a future Hall of Famer. He knows how to comport himself, right? But also, again, there has to be personal accountability, Jacoby. as a player to reinvent yourself. That's what happens when you become a legend. That's what happens when you become a vet. That's what happens when you become an OG. There are different phases that you become. There's a reason why Sean Carter and Combs both have so many nicknames over the past 20 to 25 years, because they've been able to reinvent themselves. Just like I mentioned with Gary Payton with the Miami Heat, just like I mentioned with Jason Kidd later in his career with the Dallas Mavs. And plus, they're paying you top dollar in a salary cap sport. So based on that, you need that piece of the puzzle to be productive, or you just can't get towards your goals. So it's going to be fascinating to watch. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But again, AD being a top 10 player is what really is going to drive this thing for the regular season if you're the Lakers.
It's a good point, and they are the Lakers, so we always start the show with them. But the biggest news in the NBA